This week I learned, Ken Follett sure doesn't take very long to let you know who the bad guys are. Hey bookworms, Mike back with another weekly update. We're about the halfway point of November here, and it's going to be holidays. It's going to be Christmas time here in the States before you know it, and that's just a crazy, crazy time if you do have kids. So another fun week on the channel. We're going to talk all about that. We're going to begin like usual by talking about what am I reading. I'm about 3/4 done with The Devils right now. And again, I don't want to talk too much about it because I have heard your feedback that you guys don't want me talking too much about a book that you can't read for another 7 months. And I understand that. What I'll say about it is if you liked Best Served Cold, the standalone in the First Law universe, I think you'll probably end up liking this one because it kind of does have the similar feel of that ragtag group of mercs, and they're doing basically these jobs, these heists, and they're going as catastrophic as you can possibly imagine. There's kind of a lot of that, but you're getting to know a lot about these characters as it goes along. Some ones that I thought were actually kind of got to be, I don't want to say background characters, but kind of like, just a supporting character. They're kind of getting their moment. I like the way that he shifting the POVs around to each one of these kind of characters within this little band, and you're getting to know a little bit through exposition, through some flashbacks and stuff of some things, and just some casual conversation, but not enough, where it's very much in that First Law way where you feel like you're getting a peek, but you're not really getting the full layer, and I think that's going to be what's coming in the sequel books. But yeah, this is... It's weird to say. I think I did this last year with Empire of the Damned, where I said that I'm not going to count it for my book of the year because it doesn't come out until next year. So I'll probably do the same with this. It will be eligible for a book of the year consideration in 2025, even though I'm reading it in 2024. And I think that's just to kind of avoid where everyone next year would be like, well, where's the Devils? It's like, last year everyone was like, where's Empire of the Damned? So that's what I'm going to do. But right now I'm thinking this would be kind of tough to knock off for my book of the month because it's, maybe my favorite fantasy author going right now. And it's a really fun book, guys. I'm having a blast with this. It's just the way that Joe writes characters, like I said last week, just second to none. It's just so unique. I did start this is not a doorstop. This is World Without End by Ken Follett. And the thing is, I read the first 50 pages in one sitting. I barely even scratch the surface. A 1,300-page book. I think in Pillars of the Earth, it's you knew pretty early on, William's a piece of work. There's not going to be a redemption arc here for William. He's just full. You're getting the same thing with the character in this book. Right away, I'm like, wow, Ralph is a real piece of work. And the funny thing about this is they always got these kind of medieval sounding names. You've got Merthin, you've got Karis, you got all the Gerald maybe, and then you just got Ralph, just Ralph. And I know it is kind of a classic medieval name, but it's just, to me, it just kind of seemed funny. It's like if you were watching one of your fantasy shows and there's all these crazy names, all of a sudden someone named Steve just shows up. It's kind of how it feels. But no, with this, you can tell right away. Ken Follett is a master of his craft. He's done his homework, and he really just kind of sets that mood for you knowing what life was like in this time period. And this is even before the bad things have happened. I like the way that the first part here is starting with all this group of characters when they were kids and showing, different walks of life. One is very much from a family that's well off. One's kind of, I guess you would say, just a peasant. And then there's one who's literally living on the streets, and you get to see the different ways that the class structure is working here. And what I love about Ken Follett is he doesn't use this as an opportunity to grind an axe. He just shows you this is the way that the classes were at the time period. And he's not giving you any kind of his opinion on these things. He's just saying this is the way that it was. I think that's the way that historical fiction should be written. It should be written as if you're chronicling it in that time period, not with a 21st century lens. That's what I like about Ken Follett. And he's continuing to do that here. I love the way he set up all these families right before you know that the bad thing is a coming. And it does actually give some pretty good explanation about some of the descendants from characters of Pillars of the Earth. So it does feel like an actual sequel, just, none of those characters are around. But, some of their influence, like Prior Philip, their influence is still very well known in the town of Kingsbridge. And yeah, that's a monster, but I'm excited to be back in the world of Kingsbridge, and I imagine I will be there for a bit. And that leads me to what am I going to read, guys? This is what I'm going to be reading probably for the rest of November. I at this point, I'm wondering if I'll be able to be done in time for Wind and Truth in December, you know? It was one of those where I was like, I want to read more Ken Follett, and I feel like all I've been doing is putting it off because of how massive these things are. But if you know anything about Pillars of the Earth, you can actually, it's actually very digestible. You can read big chunks, usually big modules. Like I think it took 3 months to read Shogun. And I recommended doing it that way, taking your time with it, because it is just so dense. It isn't really what I would call bingeable. I feel like his books, at least one book and 50 pages into a second, I feel like they're very, very bingeable. You can read large chunks of his books and not get burnt out, because it's just the way he writes. It's just so page-turnerish, and I'm expecting more of that. But yeah, that and finishing The Devils, obviously, will be what I'll do the next couple of weeks of November and over the holidays here. I do got some time coming at the end of the month where I am actually off of work, and I'll probably be focusing on World Without End a lot there. This week on the channel, guys, I did finally get out my review for the Kindle Colorsoft. Got me a nice case that I didn't have in the actual review there, so you know, there we go. It's a really nice case. I like it a lot, and you can actually put something on the back here. I decided to go with this instead of the one like I got for the Kindle, because one of the things I really liked about this was how light it is. You know, so I was thinking I wanted to get a case that was really, really light, and that's the one that I kind of went with. I thought that's a cool design. Anyway, nothing special. But my Kindle Colorsoft review, very happy with how it turned out. There's a lot of, basically the feedback I'm getting is what I said in that. If you already have a Paperwhite and color's not super important to you, I don't know if this is the one that I would fork over $3 for, because it is very expensive. The features are very similar to the Paperwhite. There's a couple of new things. I just don't know if it dictates the bells and whistles that you would need to pay $300 for an upgrade. Now, if this is your first Kindle and color is very important to you, you want to read comics on it, you don't have another reader that you read digital comics on, yeah, I think it's really worth it. And I think it's a great device. I bought a case for it, guys, so I think I'm keeping it. So the thing is, like, I'm hesitant to give up my Oasis, you know, because they're gone now. And I feel like if it's kind of like I said about like getting rid of my Challenger. You know, if I get rid of my Challenger and get a new Mustang, I might feel good about it. But, you know, I'd be sad because I will never get another Challenger because they're gone. So I don't know if that's necessarily an apples to apples comparison. It's just something I feel like I was talking about recently. So it's like I'm trying to kind of convert to using just the Kindle Color right now and seeing how it really grows on me. But like I said, I bought a case for it, so that probably means I'm going to end up keeping it. I don't know. It's still up in the air. But watch that review if you're on the fence about it, because I think there are some really, really great things that would make you want to own a Kindle Colorsoft. But like I said, if you already have a Paperwhite, you already have an Oasis, I'm not sure if it's worth the upgrade, especially if you're like me and you're having a hard time letting go of the physical buttons to page turn. That's really the biggest drawback for me. Is I love those pages because I hate fingerprints all over my screen. And like I joked in the video, you can have the cleanest hands in the world. You can sanitize your hands right before you use it. You're still going to leave marks every single time you swipe to turn the page. You got to get used to just pressing the corner there. But hey, watch that review if you guys want to know more. I did begin the 2025 preview season by talking about some standalones and some palette cleansers to begin next year. That was something I just started back, years ago when I was first starting to read Malazan. As I said, you want to have something that can kind of break up the monotony, kind of get you to avoid burnout. I think when you're reading a very, very heavy fantasy series like that, it's something to do for just really fantasy readers in general, because you read these 7-8 book series, 900-page books. Sometimes you need a break from that universe to avoid burnout. And so what I did was I was like, these are some books that either are standalone or they can be part of a series, but they're just really, really quick. Like, for example, I was doing Dresden Files at the time, which was a series, but it also felt like a palette cleanser. So that's the kind of books I talk about there. I talked about 10 that I want to start next year, and I had a very, very nice smorgasbord of things to choose from there. I had a Western, I had drama, I had crime, I had thrillers, I had fantasy, I had science fiction. So that's kind of what you want to do. Jump out of your comfort zone once in a while if you feel like you're getting kind of bogged down a little bit with these, staying with one genre for too long. I always used to tell people, if you're getting tired of swords and shields, sci-fi, go up to space for a little while. It'll help you break the monotony and keep you from getting burned out. So that's the key for me. Burnout is very, very real. So picking some smaller books and outside of your comfort zone, maybe. Pick up a horror book, pick up a thriller or a crime book or something like that. It's like 300 pages and has like a cast of 5 characters. Then they can really help you reset the cache a little bit upstairs and get a clean slate. And I think that helps a ton, but that's a fun video, but the first of my 2025 preview stuff. There's going to be some more here on the way as we ramp up through December, as that does dictate at the end of the year. I've got to issue an apology to Philip Chase, to Patrick, to Ed and Will Gwynn, to John Gwynn. I was actually going to be a part of their Fury of the Gods spoiler discussion panel. Not going to get into the details, but just say kids are great, guys. Don't have them. Let's put it that way. I had to actually bail on that conversation. I just could not get free. It was unavoidable, and I apologize for them. I apologize to them. But I'm going to look forward to watching that video when Philip does post it. I don't believe it was live, so I don't think he's posted it yet. But when it is posted, I'll make sure that I drop a link to it because I'm excited to listen to it as well. But clearly, very upset I had to miss a conversation with all those wonderful people involved to talk about a really great book, and I'm really, really sad about it. But just know that I am very sorry, and it was nothing that I wanted to miss. That's for sure. And it's a bummer. It really is a bummer. But guys. Kids don't care about best laid plans. That's how these things work. Over on Mike's Media Reviews, we did a couple of movie reviews we're doing for Creep 2, which is just an interesting flick. And it wasn't just, a rehash of the first movie, which was what I was very, very excited about. And we did like that. And then we talked about Longlegs. I hated the movie. My wife liked it. And that's probably the most we've disagreed in one of our movie reviews over there since Hereditary. So it was a fun conversation, I think, but I think the comments are mostly on her side. Most people seem to really like the movie, but there are a handful that are like me. They wanted something different, and it didn't really deliver those things that we were looking for. So jump in and check out that review if you want to know why I thought that movie was, for lack of a better term, dog shit. I did not like the movie at all. When Nicolas Cage is the best part of your movie and he's in it for about 4 minutes, you might not have done something right. That's just my opinion, as all things are when you're talking movies. How about some next week plans, guys? Got a couple things. I am going to be doing a talk about nothing. I'm going to have 2 guests on this time, and I'm going to be talking to Adrian Gibson and MJ Kuhn from the SFF Addicts podcast. They're also both authors, but they are also wonderful conversationalists. I was on their podcast a little while ago with a couple of other guests, with a K over K's Hidden Shelf and Book Reviews Kill. I was over there with them a while back, and I really loved the conversation. I was like, we got to get together and talk some more. And so I wanted to make sure I invited them over here to talk because I used to listen to their podcast really before I got going. So it's one of those things where it's kind of like when I talk to Howler Pod. It's kind of a full circle moment for me. When you get to be a guest on someone's podcast that you listen to before anyone watch anything that you produce. So it's always a lot of fun. So getting to roll out the red carpet for them, have them come on the channel and talk to me, that should be fun. We'll be doing that live on Tuesday night. That's going to be Houston time, 7 p.m. So look up timeanddate.com. If you want to know what time that is, I'd love to have you guys in the chat and hear that discussion as well. New series to begin in 2025 in Permanent Ink. Now, this is a mainstay on the channel, so when I do every year, at the beginning of the year, I start talking about these are ones that are in consideration. I'm going to kind of whittle them down, and I'll make my decision in November. And what I mean by Permanent Ink is no matter what, I'm trying at least book one of these series next year. Now, last year, I got 9 out of the 10 in there. The only one I didn't start was The Lot Lands by Jonathan French, which I feel bad about because I feel like that's the second time that's happened. So it's one of those where I try to hold myself to it and say, these are new series I'm going to start in the year regardless. And I only commit to book one because I learned a while back, don't commit to a full series and then read book one, you don't like it, and then you feel like you're stuck, So now I say I only commit to book number 1. But these are the 10 I've narrowed down. I try to get a nice mix of sci-fi, horror, fantasy, historical fiction, thriller, all that stuff. I try to get a nice mix in there for new series I want to start. But in the end, they're mostly going to be fantasy because in the end, this is a fantasy channel. So we'll see what it actually is when I do make that video. But that's always fun to look forward to the next year. I always say that in real life, I'm that meme of, the guy is holding his girlfriend's hand. He's looking at the next girl like, that's me with whatever I'm reading next, in my monthly TBR. So when it's what I'm reading next year, it's like even more like that. So it's exciting to look ahead and think about these new worlds you're going to visit. And, you never know. You might find your next favorite series when you do that. And I can't wait to talk about it. And that'll be probably Thursday or Friday of next week. On Mike's Movie Reviews, we got a couple of reviews planned. We did watch Deadpool and Wolverine. We're going to talk about that one. We watched A Nightmare on Elm Street. It's the first time my wife has watched a Freddy movie when he was still scary, before he was just the prankster, Joker. And I think she said she'd only watched them on like TBS or something, where everything was edited out there. And we watched the movie, The Blink Twice, the Channing Tatum movie, which was very, very messed up. So we'll be talking about those, as well as Cobra Kai Season 6 Part 2. We did watch all of those, and we'll be getting together for that. We'll probably do a brief non-spoiler, and then just talk spoilers of everything happened. And it's because at this point, if you're not in, I don't know why you'd be watching a video about Season 6 Part 2. So we'll probably just be mostly spoilers there, but it's very quick. With 5 episodes, just blow through it. It remains at the top of its game, guys. I feel like this show is going to go out on top. It's not going to be one of those where it's like, oh, thank God it's over, because we got 5 episodes left now. And it's feeling very, very bittersweet, because it's going to be hard to say goodbye to this cast, because I do love them so much. As for some more TV and movie talk before I split here, like the rest of the world, I was trying to watch Mike Tyson, Jake Paul fight on Netflix on Friday night. And by now, it's one of those things where you feel like Netflix should be celebrating, because this was a massive event. Problem was, it broke their service. I couldn't even watch it. Antonio Brown was live streaming it on his phone from the stadium, and that's how I watched it on Twitter. I didn't get to, I paid for Netflix and I couldn't watch it because it broke. Netflix was just a little circle, and that was the way for a lot of things. So I was like, one of those. I've heard everything range from 60 million to 120 million people were trying to watch this, and Netflix has a user base of 238 million. I felt bad for the guy that was trying to watch Cobra Kai and couldn't, because the service was broken because of this live event. But it's one of those things. As far as the fight goes, about what I expected. Look, I grew up with Mike Tyson. Was my generation's Ali. He was the guy. He was awesome. And sure, so we wanted to see Mike maybe get a good shot in there. I don't think any of us really thought that he was going to win the fight. He's over twice Jake Paul's age. But it was not a pretty fight. I'm not going to go as far as some people be like, oh, this was just like a total embarrassment. No, Muhammad Ali's last fight was an embarrassment. This was just whatever. It's what I expected. You could tell into the third round that Mike's legs were gone. And I think for him, just going the distance was going to be a win for him. But you realize this guy almost died like 3 months ago, So it's amazing he even got in shape enough to come to the ring and fight. And it's weird that the only time that Netflix fix itself is when Mike, flashed his bare ass cheeks to the world. So it was an interesting night, and it's one of those things where I wonder if the NFL has got to be rethinking their deal with Netflix right now. Even though you think about it, with the Christmas Day games last year got about 30 million viewers, and so I expect that to be what the 2 Christmas Day games get on Netflix this year at tops, 30 million viewers. And so maybe it'll be fine. You don't know, but it just if they mess up, if Netflix has buffering problems, has server problems on Christmas Day during these NFL games that are going to be determining playoff seeding, there ain't no one going to be wanting to make deals with you again. So Peacock had a playoff game last year, and it went off without a hitch. So Netflix, you better watch out, man. You better watch out, because you're going to lose not subscribers. You're going to lose a lot of money, because a lot of folks aren't going to want to make deals for you to do live events anymore. I mean, you've got WWE coming there next year live. I don't think it's going to be doing those kind of numbers, but it is a global brand, and you never know. A lot of people will be tuning in that never tuned in before. And if you can't get your server problems fixed, come on. You're a bazillion-dollar company. Get your servers fixed. So call Elon, see if we can do that Starlink thing or something. I don't know. But you got to get this fixed, because you cannot have another event like this where the biggest takeaway from it is that no one could watch it because your service was broken. So watch out. Another thing on Netflix, though, we did watch a documentary called The Lost Children. I don't know if you know about this. I think it was last year, the year before, there was a story about a plane crash that happened in the rainforest in Colombia. And it was 4 kids were on board that apparently lived through the plane crash, but they couldn't find them. They found the other they found the other passengers on the plane deceased, but the 4 children that were on board were still alive, and they found evidence that they were still alive. So they were looking for them. It's really a story about all the groups that come together. There's the militia, but then there's the civilians that want to help, and they aren't on good terms really. And it's showing how they came together for a greater cause to try to find these 4 kids who were lost in the forest for 40 days before they find out what happened. I'm not going to tell you what happens, because it's a great mystery. So if you don't know the real life story of what happened, I definitely say check out The Lost Children on Netflix. It had my wife a little emotional at the end. It's a very, very good documentary. It's got some very, very spiritual stuff, and it's got some things that some people might be like, I don't know if I needed to have that in a documentary, but you got to understand This is what a lot of the indigenous people here believe, and it really does not shy away from that. And the last like 20 minutes is like really eye-opening stuff. It's really, really good. So I say definitely check it out. So it has so much real life footage, because they have body cams and stuff like that. It's just it's really, really touching story, and it's just one of those about the. Like for imagine, didn't you guys like The Martian? It's just like that tale of survival, and humanity will put aside all the bullshit to go save somebody. And I think it's just one of those good stories that make you feel real good right here, but it'll also hurt you a little bit, especially if you have young kids, to think about what these kids were going through in this very, very dangerous rainforest for 40 days, man. It's tough to imagine. I don't think I'd make it a week. First day, I'd probably sit down, take a rest, and get bit in the ass by a snake and die. So I'm not very much a survivalist. It's one of those you don't know. You don't know what you're capable of, what you would do until you're thrust in that situation. That's a very, very good documentary, and I highly do recommend it now that Netflix is working again. But guys, that was my week. I'd love to know what you are up to. Why don't you go ahead and drop in the comments. Let me know what you're watching, what you're reading, what you're listening to, what you are playing, and I will talk to you there.